Kellyanne Conway and Jasmine Crockett represent two very different styles of political engagement, and their contrasting approaches become strikingly clear in moments of direct debate. Conway, who rose to prominence as a senior advisor to former President Donald Trump, is known for her sharp rhetoric, her ability to reframe conversations, and her tactic of overwhelming opponents with fast-paced talking points that often redirect the narrative. She has built a reputation for dominating interviews and exchanges by staying on the offensive, a style that thrives on putting her opponent in a defensive position. In contrast, Jasmine Crockett, a Democratic Congresswoman with a legal background, embraces a more direct, unapologetic, and often confrontational approach that cuts through rhetorical maneuvering. Her communication style is deeply rooted in precision, legal framing, and the willingness to challenge assumptions directly. When the two are placed in the same arena, their differences highlight the dynamics between traditional political spin and newer, assertive modes of political engagement. Conway's debate style often relies on controlling the pace of a conversation. She speaks quickly, interrupts fluidly, and introduces multiple threads of argument in rapid succession, which can leave opponents struggling to address every point. This strategy works well when she faces individuals who are hesitant or unprepared, as it creates the appearance that she holds the upper hand. Her method is designed to create confusion, to overwhelm fact-checking in real time, and to make it difficult for an opponent to sustain a coherent counterargument. In many ways, her approach mirrors the larger political strategies she employed during her career, focusing on dominating the narrative rather than conceding ground. This kind of rhetorical power is rooted in decades of experience in media appearances, political consultancy, and the combative environment of Washington. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, does not adopt the defensive posture that Conway's style often provokes in others. Instead, she leans into confrontation with a confidence that disarms Conway's tactics. Crockett's debate style is anchored in clarity and assertiveness, refusing to let her opponent's speed or redirection derail her central points. She often uses sharp language, biting humor, and a legalistic approach that emphasizes facts and accountability. Where Conway thrives on disruption and narrative control, Crockett thrives on exposing contradictions and demanding specificity. This makes her particularly effective in countering the kind of rhetorical spin that Conway is known for. Crockett's style resonates with audiences who are weary of evasive political discourse because it feels more authentic and less rehearsed, signaling that she is unafraid to challenge established figures in a direct manner. The clash between the two is not simply about personality differences but also about generational and cultural shifts in political communication. Conway represents a more traditional insider strategy, where controlling the media cycle and mastering spin is the key to influence. Her style is deeply tied to the political era of Trump, where rapid responses and constant reframing became central to maintaining loyalty and narrative dominance. Crockett, however, embodies a newer form of political engagement, one that thrives in the digital age, where clips of exchanges are dissected and shared widely across social media. Her punchy retorts and sharp takedowns are tailor-made for platforms like Twitter and TikTok, where brevity and impact are more valuable than long-winded explanations. This difference in style reflects the broader transformation of political debate, where traditional media appearances now exist alongside viral clips that can shape public perception within minutes. Conway's reliance on rhetorical tricks such as deflection, exaggeration, and selective framing is effective for audiences who are already aligned with her perspective, but it can falter when faced with someone like Crockett who refuses to accept the framing and immediately calls it out. Crockett's refusal to be cornered shows how her debate style neutralizes Conway's strengths by shifting the emphasis from rhetorical dominance to substance and accountability. This creates moments where Conway's attempts to press an advantage are turned against her, as Crockett reframes the exchange in real time. Audiences watching this dynamic unfold often perceive Crockett as more in control, even when Conway is speaking more frequently or more aggressively. The optics of confidence and composure are crucial in such moments, and Crockett demonstrates an ability to stay grounded even under pressure. Another point of contrast is how each woman uses language to connect with audiences. Conway often couches her arguments in political jargon, buzzwords, or cultural references designed to resonate with conservative audiences. Her goal is to reinforce ideological solidarity rather than to persuade skeptics. Crockett, in contrast, often uses plain, cutting language that appeals to authenticity and relatability. She draws on her background as a lawyer and as a representative of a diverse constituency, grounding her arguments in lived experience as well as technical knowledge. This difference in tone allows Crockett to appeal to a broader spectrum of viewers, including those who might not be deeply invested in the political intricacies of the moment but are responsive to authenticity and strength. The contrasting debate styles of Conway and Crockett also reveal deeper truths about power dynamics in political discourse. Conway's style thrives on hierarchy, where her experience and insider status give her confidence to dominate conversations. Crockett's style, however, disrupts that hierarchy by refusing to defer to established figures, embodying a democratic approach that asserts her right to stand toe-to-toe with anyone, regardless of seniority or reputation. This is particularly significant given the broader context of American politics, where representation and inclusivity are increasingly central to how political debates are framed and understood. Crockett's assertiveness challenges traditional expectations of how women in politics should behave, especially women of color, making her debate style both a political strategy and a cultural statement. Ultimately, when Kellyanne Conway and Jasmine Crockett engage in debate, what emerges is not just a battle of words but a clash of paradigms. Conway represents the well-honed, media-savvy tactics of a political strategist who thrives on control, while Crockett embodies a newer, unapologetic, and disruptive force that resists being boxed in. Their contrasting styles illuminate the evolving nature of political debate in America, where the old tools of spin and narrative control are being tested by voices that refuse to play by the same rules. Each interaction between the two provides a window into the shifting landscape of political communication, showing how different strategies resonate with different audiences and how the balance of power in debates is constantly being renegotiated. When Kellyanne Conway attempted to corner Jasmine Crockett during their exchange, the moment was set up as one where Conway's experience and quick wit would put her in control of the conversation. Known for her ability to press opponents with aggressive framing, Conway entered the interaction with the same strategy she has used countless times before, to overwhelm with speed, introduce doubt, and force her counterpart onto the defensive. However, what unfolded instead was a demonstration of Crockett's ability not only to resist being cornered but to flip the dynamics entirely in her favor. This shift in control became evident through Crockett's sharp responses, which dismantled Conway's attempts to dominate, transforming what could have been a one-sided confrontation into a showcase of strength and rhetorical agility. Crockett's response was marked by an unflinching confidence that disrupted Conway's rhythm. Rather than allowing Conway's talking points to dictate the direction of the exchange, Crockett interjected with precision, reframing the conversation on her own terms. This was not just about answering Conway's challenges but about reclaiming control of the narrative. By refusing to adopt a defensive posture, Crockett showed that she understood the underlying strategy behind Conway's approach and was prepared to counter it. In doing so, she demonstrated that control in a debate does not necessarily go to the one who speaks the loudest or the fastest but to the one who maintains composure while redirecting the energy of the exchange. The effectiveness of Crockett's response lay in her ability to combine wit with substance. While Conway's remarks were designed to corner her through rhetorical traps, Crockett sidestepped those traps by exposing the flaws and contradictions in Conway's arguments. Her rebuttals did not merely parry the immediate point but often turned the argument around in a way that made Conway's strategy appear ineffective. By doing this, Crockett not only diffused the immediate pressure but also created the impression that she was in command of the moment. This reversal of roles, where the one being cornered becomes the one steering the exchange, was the essence of how Crockett flipped the script. Part of Crockett's success came from her ability to draw upon her background as a lawyer. Legal training instills the capacity to listen closely, identify weaknesses, and respond with targeted precision. Crockett's answers often resembled courtroom rebuttals, where each statement is designed to undermine credibility while reinforcing her own position. This approach allowed her to appear not just reactive but strategically proactive. Instead of being pushed into corners, she built her own narrative, making Conway respond to her points rather than the other way around. The shift in control was visible not just in the words spoken but in the body language and tone, as Crockett projected confidence and poise while Conway's attempts to dominate lost momentum. Another key factor was Crockett's use of humor and sharpness to undercut Conway's authority. Humor can be a powerful tool in debates, especially when used to highlight absurdities or contradictions in an opponent's statements. Crockett's ability to inject biting commentary without losing focus made her responses memorable and impactful. In moments where Conway might have expected compliance or hesitation, Crockett delivered lines that resonated with audiences, creating viral-worthy soundbites. This ability to create resonance through quick wit ensured that the exchange would be remembered not as Conway's attempt to dominate but as Crockett's moment of control. The shift in control also revealed a larger truth about the changing dynamics of political exchanges in the digital age. Conway's style is one that thrives in traditional media settings, where rapid talking points can flood the conversation, making it difficult for interviewers or opponents to push back in real time. Crockett's style, however, is tailor-made for the modern era of social media, where a sharp retort or a moment of composure under pressure can be clipped, shared, and celebrated across platforms. By flipping the script in real time, Crockett not only controlled the live exchange but also positioned herself as the clear winner in the court of public opinion that follows every televised debate. Audiences watching the interaction could see that the balance of power had shifted. Conway's usual dominance was met with resistance, and Crockett's responses energized viewers who value authenticity and directness. This is significant because perception often matters as much as substance in political debates. The perception that Crockett turned the tables on Conway gave her the upper hand, even for those who might not have followed every detail of the exchange. Control in such moments is about how the audience interprets the interaction, and Crockett's performance communicated strength, resilience, and mastery. By flipping the script, Crockett also highlighted the limitations of Conway's approach. Conway's strategy works best when opponents play by her rules, responding defensively to her framing and trying to untangle her layered talking points. Crockett refused to play by those rules, and in doing so, she exposed the vulnerability of a strategy that depends on compliance. The more Conway tried to press her usual tactics, the more Crockett's refusal to be boxed in made those tactics look less effective. This revealed to audiences that Conway's control is not absolute but conditional, reliant on the opponent's willingness to be cornered. Crockett's resistance disrupted the conditions that make Conway effective, turning the exchange into a stage for her own assertive presence. The broader implications of this moment extend beyond the immediate exchange. For Crockett, the ability to flip the script against a seasoned political strategist like Conway elevates her profile as a formidable debater and public figure. It signals that she is capable of standing firm against some of the toughest communicators in the political arena, which builds her credibility and appeal. For Conway, the exchange demonstrates that her once unassailable style of control is vulnerable in the face of opponents who are equally quick, equally assertive, and unafraid to challenge her authority. The contrast between the two is not just a matter of different personalities but a reflection of evolving expectations in political discourse, where audiences increasingly reward authenticity and resilience over rehearsed spin. In flipping the script, Crockett did more than win a single exchange. She set an example of how control can be wrestled away from even the most experienced opponents. Her sharp responses shifted the direction of the conversation, demonstrated her ability to stay unshaken under pressure, and left audiences with the clear impression that she was the one dictating the terms of the interaction. This shift in control became the defining feature of the moment, turning what might have been remembered as Conway's confrontation into Crockett's triumph. The exchange between Kellyanne Conway and Jasmine Crockett carries significance that goes far beyond a single clash of personalities, because it reflects the larger political and cultural divides that shape American discourse today. Moments like this are not just about who speaks more effectively or who lands the sharper retort. They serve as a mirror of the broader battles being fought in the political arena and in the cultural sphere. Conway has long been associated with the strategies of the Trump era, where reframing narratives and deploying spin to rally a base became central to political communication. Crockett, on the other hand, represents a newer generation of political leaders who reject deference, embrace direct confrontation, and bring authenticity into the public sphere in ways that resonate with diverse communities. Their clash becomes symbolic of the tension between old methods of political control and new forms of political expression that demand accountability and speak to shifting cultural expectations. One layer of the broader significance lies in the way this moment illustrates the changing expectations of political leadership. For years, figures like Conway dominated media narratives through mastery of spin and rhetorical maneuvering, strategies designed for an era when television interviews and newspaper articles were the primary arenas of debate. In that setting, the ability to deflect, redirect, and overwhelm opponents often went unchallenged in real time, allowing figures like Conway to emerge unscathed even when facts were not on their side. But with the rise of social media and the rapid circulation of clips, audiences have developed a sharper eye for evasions and contradictions. Crockett's refusal to be boxed in and her willingness to call out spin directly resonate strongly with a public that increasingly values transparency and candor. This shift marks a cultural change where traditional political communication is no longer sufficient to maintain control over narratives. Another dimension of the significance lies in how this exchange highlights representation in politics. Jasmine Crockett, as a black woman in Congress, stands in stark contrast to Conway, who for years symbolized the polished, insider strategist defending Trump's White House. Their interaction underscores how the face of political leadership is changing, as more women of color are taking center stage in debates and refusing to accept marginalization. Crockett's assertive approach challenges long-standing stereotypes about how women, particularly women of color, are expected to communicate in professional or political spaces. Instead of being subdued or overly cautious, Crockett embodies a new paradigm of leadership that is unapologetic and unfiltered, speaking truth to power even in the face of seasoned strategists. This makes the exchange culturally significant because it reflects the growing insistence on representation not just in numbers but in voice and style. The clash also symbolizes the broader polarization of American politics. Conway's rhetorical style is rooted in defending conservative ideologies, often through reframing issues in ways that resonate with right-leaning audiences. Crockett's style reflects progressive politics, grounded in accountability, direct confrontation of misinformation, and advocacy for marginalized voices. Their debate becomes a microcosm of the broader national divide, where each side not only defends its positions but embodies fundamentally different approaches to truth, accountability, and communication. Audiences who align with Conway may see her aggressiveness as strength and loyalty, while those who align with Crockett may see her sharp responses as refreshing honesty. This duality reinforces how cultural and political divides in America are not just about policy but about how truth itself is presented and defended in public forums. The significance extends further when considering the role of performance in modern politics. Political communication has always had an element of theater, but in the digital age, moments of confrontation are instantly turned into content. Crockett's ability to flip the script on Conway created a performance that was not only effective in the moment but also in its afterlife across social media platforms. Clips of her sharp responses circulated widely, energizing supporters and drawing attention to her rising profile. This reflects how cultural impact is now measured not only by what happens during a debate but by how it reverberates afterward, shaping narratives in the broader public consciousness. Conway's attempt to corner her opponent ended up providing Crockett with a stage to amplify her voice, a reversal that underscores the shifting balance of power in the media ecosystem. The cultural significance of this moment also lies in its role as an example of accountability in action. Many viewers have grown weary of political figures who evade direct questions or manipulate facts without consequence. Crockett's insistence on challenging Conway's framing reflects a larger demand in American society for leaders who will not simply allow misinformation to go unchecked. This insistence resonates in a climate where distrust of institutions and media is high, and where authenticity and directness are increasingly seen as markers of integrity. By publicly holding her ground, Crockett tapped into a cultural undercurrent that values calling out dishonesty and standing firm, even when faced with well-practiced spin. Another layer of broader importance is the generational divide reflected in the exchange. Conway represents a generation of political operatives who learned to master traditional media cycles, while Crockett embodies the energy of a younger political movement that thrives in a world shaped by social media, rapid-fire communication, and viral moments. This generational clash is not just stylistic but cultural, showing how new leaders are redefining what it means to engage in public debates. For younger audiences, Crockett's style feels relatable and in step with how communication happens today, while Conway's strategies, once dominant, can come across as outdated or overly scripted. This shift reveals how cultural relevance in politics is being redefined by new forms of communication that prioritize immediacy, authenticity, and resonance. The significance of Crockett flipping the script is also symbolic of broader power dynamics in politics. Historically, seasoned strategists like Conway were able to set the terms of debate, often silencing less experienced figures or turning their words against them. Crockett's ability to resist and reverse this dynamic signals a redistribution of rhetorical power, where emerging voices are no longer confined to defensive roles but can claim equal or greater authority in the public sphere. This is emblematic of broader social changes, where hierarchies based on seniority, race, gender, or insider status are increasingly being challenged by leaders who bring different lived experiences and unapologetic confidence to the table. Finally, the moment between Conway and Crockett can be seen as part of a larger cultural conversation about truth, power, and resilience. It illustrates how political debate is no longer confined to policy disagreements but has become a stage for competing visions of authenticity and authority. The significance lies in how Crockett's response demonstrates that attempts to corner opponents with spin or rhetorical manipulation are no longer guaranteed to succeed, especially against leaders who embody a new standard of political engagement. In this way, the exchange becomes more than a political skirmish, it becomes a cultural marker of how the terms of debate in America are shifting, reflecting a society that increasingly demands accountability, representation, and the courage to stand firm in the face of pressure.